She doesn't come with a warning label. No thunder, no smoke, just a smile. A presence so graceful, so composed. You'd never suspect the storm that follows her. Evil rarely arrives as a monster. Sometimes it wears perfume. You thought she was love. You thought she was peace. But what if she was simply watching? Watching how much you'd give before she started taking. The world calls her misunderstood, but behind closed doors, she's a master of illusions. And if you look closely, carefully, you'll see the signs. Evidence, chilling, unmistakable. These are the signs that there is an evil woman next to you. She wields kindness as a weapon. There are women whose kindness warms a room, whose care feels like a refuge, whose affection heals. But then there are others. Women whose kindness is not an offering, but a calculated move. Their words are gentle, their gestures precise, their timing perfect. So perfect that you almost feel guilty for questioning their intent. And yet, something in your gut resists, because deep down you sense it. This isn't affection, it's manipulation in its finest form. She knows exactly when to praise you, when to flatter you, when to show just enough tenderness to make you stay, and when to vanish, emotionally just enough to make you chase. Her kindness isn't given, it's dangled. A carrot on a stick. She uses it to create dependency, to keep you wondering what you did right when she smiled and what you did wrong when she turned cold. It's a performance, and like all great performances, it keeps you hooked. You become an audience member in your own life, waiting for her next act. And when the applause dies, you're left in silence, confused, trying to piece together why you feel emptier after every interaction. The confusion isn't accidental, it's the weapon. The more unsure you are of what just happened, the more control she has over what happens next. What makes it dangerous is not her cruelty, it's her calculated warmth. Because she's not openly aggressive, she's subtle, sophisticated. She builds trust with soft hands, only to later use that trust to reshape your reality. You'll find yourself questioning whether she really meant harm, whether you're being paranoid, whether maybe, just maybe, it's all in your head. That's exactly where she wants you, in the fog. The scariest part? She will appear to be the most loving person in the world to outsiders. They'll sing her praises. They'll admire her charm, and you'll feel more alone than ever, because no one sees the mask slip but you. Behind that sweet voice and polite laugh is a mind 2 steps ahead, always calculating your next move, your next doubt, your next apology. You may remember moments of comfort and connection, but you'll start to realize those moments only came when they benefited her. Her kindness never flowed from a place of abundance. It was transactional. You weren't loved for who you were. You were tolerated for how useful you could be. And once your usefulness faded, or worse, once you saw through her, so did the warmth. This is not love. It's not even care. It's control, dressed in tenderness. And the most dangerous part of all, you didn't even notice it was happening, because it looked so much like love. She feeds on your doubt. She doesn't need to raise her voice. She doesn't need to shout or curse or slam doors. Her power doesn't come from volume. It comes from silence. From the subtle tilt of her head when you speak. The half smile that says she knows something you don't. She questions things not to understand, but to destabilize. She doesn't argue to win. She lets you argue with yourself, quietly, until your own voice becomes a stranger. At first, you thought it was love that made her so observant. that she cared deeply, so she noticed the tiniest changes in your tone, your wording, your habits. But eventually you started to realize something chilling. She remembered what you said, not to comfort you, but to use it later. She kept mental notes, not for closeness, but for leverage. She doesn't accuse directly, no, she suggests, she implies. She asks questions that lead nowhere but leave everything shaken. Are you sure that's what happened? You've been a little off lately, haven't you? I just feel like you're being overly sensitive again. And just like that, you begin to retreat inward, doubting not only your memories but your own emotions. You become hesitant with your truth, unsure whether you're being irrational or perceptive. And the worst part? You start defending her. You start rationalizing the confusion. Maybe she's just stressed. Maybe you are being too dramatic. Maybe she is right. That's what she wants. She wants you disoriented, not through chaos, but through calm. She doesn't destroy your confidence in one blow. She wears it down grain by grain, like water dripping on stone. By the time you notice the pattern, your voice has already grown quiet. You've stopped sharing your thoughts so openly. You've edited yourself, anticipating how she might interpret, twist, or judge. You filter your truth to avoid discomfort, and in doing so, you lose yourself. Slowly, quietly, almost elegantly, and to outsiders she remains immaculate, rational, measured. If you ever try to explain it, you'll sound unsure, because doubt is now part of your vocabulary. You're not even sure what to call it because nothing she does is overtly wrong. But you feel it. You feel how small you've become under her gaze, how careful, how subdued. It's not what she says, it's what she makes you feel about what you said. That's where her power lives, in the invisible arena of uncertainty. And if you're not careful, she will turn your own mind into a prison, locking the door with a whisper and throwing away the key behind a smile. Her victimhood is her crown. There is a peculiar kind of brilliance in how she tells her story. Always the misunderstood one. Always the one who gave too much, loved too hard, cared too deeply. You listen, you empathize, you ache for the pain she claims to have endured. But as time passes, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Every chapter of her life ends with someone else to blame. Every broken relationship, every falling out, every betrayal, always by another's hand, never hers. She wears her victimhood like royalty, and she expects you to kneel. Her wounds are her justification. Her past is her armor. And if you're not careful, you'll be cast in the next tragedy she's already begun to write. She doesn't seek healing, she seeks sympathy. She doesn't look for growth, she looks for an audience. Her suffering is not a scar, it's a spotlight. At first, you try to help. You pour your energy into soothing her, defending her, loving her harder. You think that maybe with enough tenderness, she'll finally feel safe enough to stop hurting. But the truth is far darker. She doesn't want peace. She wants the upper hand. And if that means playing the role of the wounded dove while cutting you down behind closed doors, so be it. You'll notice how her stories always end in her favor, how the facts twist subtly over time, how when someone stands up to her they suddenly become toxic, abusive, jealous. You start to wonder if she ever tells the full truth or just the version that keeps her in the light and others in the shadows. When she hurts you, it's never her fault, it's your reaction that becomes the problem. You're too sensitive, you misunderstood. You're making her feel attacked, and somehow, without even realizing it, you're the one apologizing. Again. This is the trick. She rewrites the narrative. Slowly, patiently. She makes herself look smaller so that you feel bigger. and then uses that illusion to accuse you of being the oppressor. It's a game of reversal, and she's mastered it. You'll feel drained, not by her anger, but by the constant emotional labor of keeping her comfortable, of walking on eggshells, of making sure she never feels criticized, never feels challenged, because if she does, she will twist your concern into cruelty, your boundaries into abandonment, your exhaustion into betrayal. And the worst part, she does it all with tears in her eyes, with trembling hands, with a voice that convinces even you for a moment that maybe, just maybe, you really are the villain. That is the art. That is the illusion. She turns victimhood into power, and if you don't wake up soon enough, you will drown in her sorrow while she holds your head underwater and still calls you her savior. She is addicted to control, not connection. It may look like love, it may sound like commitment, it may even feel like intimacy at times, but beneath the surface, what she truly craves is not connection, it's control. Every word she says, every gesture she makes is calibrated, and when she gives, it's never without cost. She measures what you owe, even when she pretends it's unconditional. In the beginning, you may have mistaken her intensity for passion, her curiosity for care. She asked questions, paid attention, made you feel seen in ways that no one else had. You let your guard down, but what felt like closeness was in truth a quiet gathering of ammunition. The more she knew, the more she could manage you. You'll notice that her affection changes based on your compliance. When you follow her unspoken rules, she rewards you. Warmth, praise, even desire. But step outside the lines, challenge her view, say no, even gently, and the chill sets in. She doesn't have to raise her voice. Her withdrawal is punishment enough. The silence, the distance, the subtle looks that make you feel like a stranger in your own home. You start to adjust. You edit your words, your decisions, your emotions, just to avoid the storm. She never tells you directly that you're being controlled. She doesn't need to. Her disappointment speaks louder than any demand. And in time, you stop needing her approval to be silenced. You begin doing it to yourself. Real love invites freedom. It embraces differences. It allows space to breathe, but with her, freedom feels like betrayal. You'll find that even the smallest act of independence, making a decision without her input, enjoying something she doesn't control, becomes a quiet rebellion. And rebellions must be crushed, even if only with a glance, a sigh, a calculated absence of affection. She doesn't want a partner, she wants a puppet. A mirror that reflects back what she needs to see. And if you refuse to play that role, she doesn't confront you, she erases you, emotionally, spiritually, until you either fall in line or fall apart. And the contradiction will haunt you, because she'll still say she loves you, she'll still smile in public, still tell her friends how lucky she is, but behind closed doors, you'll feel the tension, the pressure, the weight of performing, not because she's screaming, but because you're always afraid of what might happen if you stop playing along. That's the mark of her control, not force but fear, not chains but silence, not confrontation but cold calculation. She doesn't need to raise her voice to own you, she just has to make you afraid of losing her approval. And that's how you know. It was never about connection. It was always about power. She smiles at your weakness. At first, she seemed to celebrate you. She spoke of your potential with pride. She admired your discipline, your empathy, your courage. But time has a way of peeling back illusions, and slowly you began to sense something strange. Her admiration started to feel conditional. Her encouragement began to carry a hidden weight. And then one day you realized she doesn't cheer when you rise, she only smiles when you fall. She won't mock you openly, that's too obvious. Instead, she finds subtler ways to chip at your confidence. She teases your vulnerability when no one's watching. She highlights your mistakes in moments you least expect. She may laugh at you softly when you're anxious. She may offer help, not to support you, but to remind you that you need it. When you struggle, she suddenly becomes attentive, compassionate even, but not out of love, out of satisfaction, because your pain secures her place above you. Your struggle makes her feel strong. You falling apart becomes her moment to shine. In public, she may still call you strong, still call you good, but behind that compliment is a quiet satisfaction that you're not too strong to walk away. You'll notice that your wins become invisible. You accomplish something and she changes the subject. You show confidence and she withdraws affection. You express joy and she offers caution. She doesn't attack your strength. She erases it gently until you forget it was ever there. And the cruelest part? She'll frame it as concern. I just don't want you to get ahead of yourself. I'm only saying this because I care. Don't take it the wrong way, but you will take it the wrong way because you were meant to. Her words were not designed to guide you. They were designed to keep you small, manageable, dependent. Because when you're strong, she loses leverage. When you see clearly, she loses power. When you love yourself, she has no hold. And she knows it. That's why she builds her throne on your doubt and calls it love. She keeps her balance by making sure you're off yours. This is the final sign, and perhaps the most heartbreaking. Because someone who truly loves you should rise when you rise, fight when you fall, and stand beside you whether you are broken or brave. But she doesn't stand beside you, she stands on you. And all the while she smiles, as if she hasn't already taken everything.